Hello everyone, in this video we'll talk about such a pressing issue for novice 2D FX animators, and not just 2D FX but just 2D animators, choosing software for animation. Because when they see some cool animation, they believe that if they start with this program, they can learn to do exactly the same. This, guys, is a cognitive distortion. To learn how to draw cool, you first need to raise your skills. Software will not raise your skills, it's just a tool. In this video, I will show you how to use just 3 necessary tools to master any program. You will not need much time for this, just a little time is enough, like 10 or 15 minutes or half an hour. Absolutely nothing complicated, but still. We will talk about the benefits later, but for now, I will also learn how to use the new software together with you. I will show you how to study it. To master any software, we only need to know 3 tools. In any frame-by-frame animation program. This is a brush or pen that you will use to draw. Next, it is a timeline tool, using which you will add new frames and go over your animation. So you'll go back, fix it, and so on. The timeline also gives access to all the tools you need in order to create, add and delete new frames. It gives access to the next very important tool, light table. It allows you to create a single frame, and without light table you can't see what's going on here. But if you turn on the light table, you can see what was in the previous frame. Then you can continue doing animation. Let's try to open another software, Photoshop. I haven't used it for years. Again, let's look at what we need. Find the brush tool. Then looking for timeline. You can find access to almost any panel in the Windows tab. We're looking for timeline here. So here is the timeline. And if you don't know what to do, just observe and try to get it. Create video timeline, click here. Let's see, we have something here. Add a drawing and look. Nothing happens. Why is nothing happening? I actually remember why nothing happens. Because Photoshop wasn't originally intended for frame-by-frame animation. It has several types of layers: normal drawing layer and video layer. To get access to it, let's try to get access via the timeline panel. You see, there are exceptions because the program is not intended for that initially. Okay, go to the layer panel, then look here. No new layer, no layer here, but we have video layers. Create a new empty video layer, that's it. We now have the opportunity to draw frames. Let's try to draw something. Now I will expand the timeline a little. Everything is quite intuitive. Let's see where onion skin is. Let's try to find it via timeline. Onion skin. Oh, onion skin found. How can we activate it? The same way? Yeah. Making some kind of animation. Well, it works. That's all. For now, I don't touch on the disadvantages of the software. We'll talk about this at the end of the video. Now, let's move to another software. My bottom tab shows what we're going to look at. ToonBoom. We have a drawing toolbar. We have a timeline. If it is disabled, you can find it in the Windows toolbar. And we have onion skin. It's not always on, but we remember that we can always access it from the timeline panel. Let's try to draw something first. And this is where we need to turn it on. It seems to be called onion skin here too. I don't know, we're just looking for now. Onion skin, onion skin. Most likely it is included here. Here it is. See? I just see it intuitively. There are a lot of circles in 3D space, a cluster of layers. It may not be quite obvious, but is often depicted this way. Look. It's quite convenient to do everything. But how can we customize this onion skin? Where can I find it? Because this tool is also configurable. So, onion skin window can be shown separately. You can also adjust the transparency and color settings here. This scene can be found in almost any software for 2D animation. It doesn't exist in Photoshop, or it does, but it's very limited. Photoshop is still not a program designed for 2D animation. Let's move to the next software. You see, it took just 5 minutes. This is all you need to know to create animation. Ctrl S to save the project. You probably know that. We're looking at the most popular software in the Russian-speaking community. Flash or Adobe Animate. I don't have much respect for it, by the way, for a number of reasons, but you can still use it. Someone actually does wonderful scenes using it. Alex Redfish seems to work mostly in Animate. Let's try it. How do I create a new frame here? This is a new layer I created. Insert something like that. It should be insert new frame or something like that. Here, insert keyframe. New insert, new keyframe should be created because it repeated the frame. Blank and empty frame. And we need to turn on the light table now. See if you can access the light table via timeline. By the way, if you look at the example with Photoshop, there is no access. The access was via the right mouse button. Let's see. Onion skin, onion skin, onion skin. What's this? Look, when you're confused, there is one simple life hack. Just Google it. So, somewhere at the bottom of the toolbar. By the way, the interface has changed quite a lot. Well, I said on the timeline, I just missed it. Well, it happens that you can be blunt with a new software. If you don't have a lot of time, you can just Google it. Let's continue. You can see how if I disable it, you can flip frames like that. Moving on to the new tool, OpenToonz. Here we have a brush already selected. Let's try to draw something. The interface looks completely different here. This is free software, which is a big plus. You don't need to pay money for it. We have an exposure sheet or X sheet here. It is not quite usual for us, so we go to Windows and look for timeline. Here it is. Let's search for onion skin. Can't find it here. We have an exception. Seems like we can't access it from the timeline. But I might have missed it. Oh, you need to go to the next frame first. It is already enabled. I have already activated it somewhere. Here it is. Yes, okay. It is slightly in a different place, but it's okay. Trial and error works out often too. You see, we literally spent 5 minutes on every software. Let's see how to set it up. I mean onion skin. Studio Ghibli used OpenToonz. It was originally created for animation. Here, most likely, there are quite detailed settings. However, it's free software, who knows? Oh, I see, this is it. Also quite detailed. You can set up how the previous frame will look and the next one. Following previous frames are marked in red, the next frames in green. Here you can just pick color, not the most sophisticated functionality, of course, but that will be enough. Next, Cacani. Cacani only works with vectors. Good program, there is a bunch of everything. I didn't really use it, I watched the lessons on YouTube. Smooth lines, sharp edges, everything's great. And we can edit it. ToonBoom also supports raster and vector, it can do everything. Big competitor. To make a new frame, we have to add it. I did some kind of interpolation. No, that's not it. A new frame has been added. We're looking for the onion skin tool. Here it is already activated. And how to turn it on? You need to turn it somewhere on the timeline. And look, the light bulb. TVpaint also has a light bulb. Here it turns on a little differently, but also by a light bulb. Cacani. It is also activated, but is not displayed here. What did I do? Somehow it got activated. Oh, most likely this is how it is activated. Now we need to draw. Raster lines. Queries. All programs are slightly different. This is logical. Absolutely different software. Oops, it crashed. Well, it happens. We will know. Moving on to the next software, Clip Studio Paint. I had short-term experience with it. Just before the lesson, I tried to use it. It's cool for trying, not sure about animation. If someone is used to it and thinks it is comfortable, everything is great. But there are some issues that didn't seem clear to me. I'm used to pretty intuitive stuff. Let's say in TVpaint or ToonBoom you can make any frame at any point. Everything works a little different here. Let's try to create something. Let's see what tools do we have and where they are. Here is a pen. Let's draw a line. Let's make a new frame. Here we have a new frame, and we will delete this. That's it. Now you can animate, that is, using this panel, add a new frame. Oh, this one hasn't been deleted. Add new frame. Each time you need to create a new frame here. It's not entirely intuitive, but you still can work. The light table is apparently already activated by default. It is easy to find it here, everything is close by. In this regard, everything is quite intuitive. Let's make some conclusion to what we have discussed today. And then we'll make an overall assessment of each software. We will give this assessment according to merit, but there will be no rating, because there are too many factors and it is difficult to understand them. I didn't take into account the experience of using the software. Let's say you've used Photoshop all your life and are animating in it, and you're already animating there so cool that it makes no sense to consider any other software. Well, or the price criterion is taken into account. For some, this criterion, let's say from the post-Soviet space, is not important at all. No one may even know that the software is paid. So let's start with the first point, onion skin or light table. We have it everywhere. It is everywhere in all programs we've covered. It is not always convenient, as in Photoshop you can't adjust the colors of the previous and the next frames. Most likely, other software has the same problems, but you can work with it. Next, work with the in-between frames. In-between frames are made by adding a frame between the previous one and the next. For example, if you need to in-between some animation, create in-betweens to make the movement more smooth. For example, we usually in-between the animation from 12 frames per second to 24 frames per second. There are no problems here either. We'll need some time to figure it out in some programs, but it works fine in general. Post effects. Post effects are optional for frame-by-frame animation programs. But sometimes it adds a significant plus if you do not like to move from one software to another. For example, in Adobe Animate you can do it all in one program. In Cacani this is not possible, but perhaps I'm wrong. Photoshop is also the monster that can do almost anything. Composing and 2D animation, it can do everything. A little rough, but it can. TVpaint also can do it, but there is one thing as it seemed to me. There is no way to add a glow effect, which seems strange to me, especially for our tasks, because we need lights, fire to draw all sorts of energy scenes that glow. Maybe I'm used to looking for the glow effect named glow. Maybe it's called something else here. If you know anything, write in the comments how it is called in TVpaint. I wonder if no one uses it here. In TVpaint there is easy compositing, which is handy, but we don't use it. In ToonBoom, just like in Photoshop, you can do everything, including composing, adding all sorts of post effects. OpenToonz is small, free, unfortunately there is no such feature. Unfortunately or not, as I said before, it depends on your preferences. In terms of convenience, almost all programs are good looking. But for some reason I selected TVpaint, it is probably new to me. I didn't like how in-between frames are added. You can notice that TVpaint did not plan to create software for animation. It was software for creating manga, for illustrations, and then, like a crutch, they hang the ability to animate there and then build it in. If the functionality is changed in the future, perhaps I will change my rating, but for now I put it that way. In TVpaint everything is pretty intuitive, ToonBoom too, OpenToonz too. The ability to work with lasso, that is, the lasso painting technique, when you select an area and it is then automatically filled. Even if it's not automatically filled in, it is also okay. But of course, it is better if it fills. You will not waste time on an extra filling stage. Here, unfortunately, Flash Animate loses, because the lasso only has the ability to select areas. In Cacani, this is also not possible. Photoshop does it, but in Photoshop you just need to select something. That is, you select it and then you need to fill it in separately. I have a hotkey here, but in general, here is a fill tool. There is a pen tool with which you can make this fill. But it doesn't work with animation because it creates a new layer every time. TVpaint has also lasso tool with autofill. just like in TVpaint, very convenient. Select some area and it is not even necessary to close it, it is automatically filled in. ToonBoom also has this tool. Select the stroke tool. True, it is precisely here that you need to close it so that it fills automatically, but the function is here. OpenToonz doesn't have it. Well, you know it's free. Vector graphics. Modern vector graphics is almost as good as raster graphics in terms of animation. There are pretty manageable contours, sometimes even a good brush pattern is there. In this regard, I like how Clip Studio Paint works. Almost any pattern can be drawn. And then you can correct the curve, the vector curve. It's very convenient. But in animation such brushes aren't usually used, so this is hardly a big advantage. I added raster graphics for the sake of it, in fact, there is no big difference. Because if the software does not know how to work in vector, but can only work in raster, this is more a minus than a plus. And as I said, we will not give ratings. Here it depends. You can try each software and make a decision already. I recommend taking a closer look at OpenToonz as a tool that has free license and quite interesting functionality. There are a lot of scenes that is missing, but nevertheless all the necessary basic minimum is there. That's all. I hope the video was useful to you. Like it, subscribe. We'll try to make interesting and useful content more often, and hope for your support. Bye!